This episode of The Spotlight is brought to you by our generous patrons over at patreon.com/878 Survivor FM, and they are our $10 supporters, Scalespeeder Gaming, Dick Donovan and Kenny Baker, and our two $25 supporters, Jake Snow and twitch.tv/redfreedom3739. Thank you all so much for your support, and we hope you enjoy the interview. And we are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the Spotlight, and we are joined by Martin Bauer from Taviana the Origins. Martin, how are you doing today, mate?
Great, how are you?
Better now that I got my mic working. I set up a new scene, and it looks like a few things aren't working on the stream deck, but that's more down to the fact that I'm a bit of a boomer than anything else. Mate, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. For those who don't know,
thank you for having me.
Oh, mate, I'm honoured that people like yourself decide to come on the show. But I've been following Taviana the Origins for a while now. Not as close as I would have liked to, but it seems it's barely a week goes past with the DayZ podcast that I do where someone doesn't mention the Taviana map. It's got such a big place in the hearts of so many DayZ mod players.
Absolutely, what can I say? It's a great map, and the fact that people still talk about it and want to see it either in DayZ or in Taviana the Origins is great, because that just means there's a lot of demand for the map. People like it, and
yep,
I'm really honored to have been able to create a map that's in so many people's hearts.
But before we get into that, mate, I always like to find out a little bit more about my guests and all the rest of it. So tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Well, my name is Martin. I'm the lead designer of Taviana the Origins. I was also the lead designer of Origins mod for Arma 2. I also made Taviana Island before DayZ and all these mods started coming up. And I'm 28 years old. I was born in the Czech Republic. I moved to Canada when I was like 6 years old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there until I was about 10. Then we moved to London, England, where I kind of grew up. And now I'm back in the Czech Republic, so I guess I made a full 360.
And what about gaming? How long have you been gaming for?
Oh, forever. I don't even know when I started. You know, I first got into computers when we were in Canada. We were walking down the street this one evening, and there was a computer just laying there on these rubbish bags, or garbage bags as they call them there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen that before in my life, so I said to my parents, hey, like, what's that? My dad thought it's some kind of old TV or something, but my mom had attended a computer course at a job center here in the Czech Republic before we moved there, which is like, it's like a government office when you're not employed. You can go there to get like training courses and stuff, because she was on maternity leave with me, which was like 4 years back in the day. Now it's like 6 months, but
mm-hmm.
Yeah, she done a computer course, and she said that's a computer. So I kind of bugged my parents to bring it home. My dad was like, I don't want to bring all this trash home, but I persuaded him. He brought it home. We turned it on. It was some kind of old IBM 386 or 486. Flipped the switch on. We saw a black screen with the MS-DOS. It's a C:\\\, and we didn't know what to do. Then my mom remembered you have to type in WIN, so we typed in WIN, and then you had the classic old green startup image with Windows 3.11 for workgroups. And
Yep.
Yeah, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life, because I've always been interested in mechanics. I always used to bug my parents to take me to the train station to look at trains and stuff like that. And yeah, I was hooked on it from then. Since then.
So you found a computer in the trash, took it home, and it still worked. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's
Perfectly.
that's
I also
bizarre.
had a Macintosh Classic,
Yep.
and I used to play billiards on it and Prince of Persia and all these games.
So what got you into coding and map making and stuff like that?
Well, I wasn't really into coding. I was more into making models. I've always kind of had an artistic side too. I used to draw since ever I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I downloaded. Well, I didn't download. I bought. This was, when was it? This was in like 2002. or 2000. I don't know the exact year it was, but I went shopping with my mom, and this was in London, England. We went to a supermarket called Safeway.
Yep.
And they had like this rack with these old cheap games behind the cash tills, and there was a game called Operation Flashpoint, and for some reason
Yes.
I just wanted to buy that game, so I persuaded my mom to buy it for me. She wanted to buy it, but they wouldn't let me because it was 18 plus, and I was like 12 years old at the time.
Yep.
So then my mom said, I'm gonna buy it for myself, and she bought it for me, and
Yeah.
yeah, I just got hooked on the game, and I didn't have internet at the time, so I used to go to internet cafes in London. You pay them like 50 pence, and they let you use the internet for like half an hour. And I found that you can download add-ons for this game, like all kinds of cars and maps. And so I used to go there with floppy disks. This was even before USB sticks became a thing.
Yep.
And I download these add-ons on floppy disks, take them home, and put them in the game. Then I realized you can also download tools. What was it called? Oxygen something. It was a program that you can model in. So I downloaded that and I started making my own models, started making my own maps, and I just kind of got hooked on it because, you know, London's kind of a big city. It's always raining. There's not much to do.
Mm-hmm.
Besides just sitting at home. I mean, the only thing young people do is like they roam the streets and binge drink, or just if they're from a wealthier family, maybe they're in some football club or something like that. I wasn't really too much into binge drinking, so I kind of just stayed home and made add-ons for Operation Flashpoint.
Yep.
And then when Arma 2 came out, I moved to Arma 2, and until I ended up where I am today.
Nice. So, Taviana is a definite fan favourite, like we said. What was the story behind the making of the original map? What prompted you to do that?
Sure, really. I just wanted to make a map, and I've always been missing that urban kind of aspect to maps in Operation Flashpoint and Arma. In Operation Flashpoint, there were no urban cities; there were just little villages.
Yep.
In Arma 2, they added Chernarus that had like one or two cities, but it was still missing those concrete Soviet apartment blocks, and I just wanted to create a kind of Soviet urban island because that's the environment I grew up in. Those were my memories of the Czech Republic when I was a little kid, like 5 years old. So I guess I just wanted to recreate that out of nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. And how many people were in the team back then?
It was just me. Just me.
Yep. That must have been a massive undertaking because it's 625 square kilometres?
Yeah, I didn't do it all in one go. It took a couple of years to do it.
Yep.
I'd work on it when I got home from school. Sometimes I wouldn't work on it. Sometimes I would whenever I felt like it. And it just kind of ended up becoming Taviana. I didn't expect it to become such a huge map and to be in so many people's hearts, but it kind of did.
So, we'll probably start with why you've decided to go out on your own and make a game around the map.
Well, I guess it's always been our dream to make our own game because all of us are gamers and we've always bought other people's games. So naturally, you also want to make your own game at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were working on Origins Mod, we initially anticipated that since DayZ is going to become a standalone game, and since Origins Mod was like the second biggest survival mod at the time, that they would want to team up with us or hire us to kind of help them out in DayZ, because we had a lot of cool things in Origins Mod. A lot of people liked. We had base building, and you could arm your cars and change the colors of your cars and stuff. So we thought perhaps we'll get the call from Bohemia to participate in DayZ. We never got that call, so I guess we just said, well, we got this far, so let's just make our own game.
Did you attempt to reach out to them at all?
No, we didn't attempt to reach out to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time, I don't know, I was like 19 years old at the time, and nobody in my family was ever like a businessman. I didn't even know that you can reach out to big companies like that.
Yeah. Yep. Because I do probably this is a good segue into a question that I was going to ask later, but I do wonder, have you rethinked your inks with the looks like the success of the community DLC Prairie Fire on Arma 3?
Honestly, I know nothing about that DLC. I haven't been in the Arma world for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't rethink anything because there was really nothing to rethink. It's not like there were lawyers from Bohemia knocking on our doors saying you need to sign these papers. Nobody offered anything to us except I think this was like 2 years after we already got started with the game. Somebody from Bohemia did contact me, and I don't want to make public our private conversations, but what I can say is they were interested in me personally porting the map over to DayZ, but there was really no mention of making like a DLC or even getting paid for it in any way. And by then, me and my friends were already making our standalone games, so I'm not gonna say, hey guys, you know what, I'm just going to port my map to DayZ. Even if they did offer money, I wouldn't accept that deal because I'm not going to say to my friends that already promised to work on a game with, hey guys, I'm just going to go off to Bohemia, do my own thing, and good luck and bye,
Yeah.
So unfortunately, if they did want to do a DLC, the call it came in too late. Which again, they didn't mention they want to do a DLC or anything like that, so...
What could have been if they'd only reached out in the early days? Because I know that's a big sticking point with a lot of people is they're upset that the game hasn't come across to DayZ standalone.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that they didn't, because if I was at the helm of DayZ, I would have probably reached out since we're the second largest mod, and I think it could have been maybe even bigger than it is now, but... who am I to judge? I guess that wasn't their vision for the game, and they're still very successful.
Yeah.
I think our game is going to be pretty successful too, and yeah, I read some of the comments that people posted on your Reddit, and it's just intriguing how people come up with these theories. Somebody once told me a saying, it goes kind of like this: a chicken lays an egg on one end of the village, and by the time the news reaches the other end of the village, a black cat gave birth to a swan. If that makes any sense. So it's kind of like Chinese whispers, somebody says something on the internet, and then people think, oh, you missed your opportunity to make a DLC, and it just didn't go down like that at all.
I'm just bringing up what you were referring to, because you guys have copped some absolutely unbelievable hate from some people.
Well, yeah, it's the internet, it's not really regulated by anybody, but I'd say most people have been very respectful, they've been very nice. There are a few bad apples, but what can you do? That's just life. You just have to get on with it. And by the way, in regards to DLCs, I think it's worth mentioning that Bohemia Interactive's content DLC, what's it called? Creator content DLCs or whatever it's called.
Yeah, community DLC.
Community DLC, that's right. That only came about in Q1 of 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And we started our game we announced it in 2018. So the ability to even make community DLCs for Arma 3 came about a year later from when we started. So I think it's worth for people to do some critical thinking and a little bit of fact checking before they believe all these rumors online that we, didn't want to work with Bohemia or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. So we've addressed that elephant in the room. So let's focus a bit more on the positives about the game. But one thing before we get there, there's a lot of people out there who talk about with this whole survival horror zombie genre that has played out. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't think it's played out at all.
No, I don't either. But there's a lot of people who do say that, and it's obviously a big risk to go and make another game in a genre that is pretty niche. and dominated clearly by DayZ Standalone. And we've got Scum, which is also being made on the Unreal Engine, slowly starting to wake up from a slumber as well.
Well, I think people get that kind of vibe because, well, I haven't really played all the survival games out there. I've been just focusing on our game.
Yep.
But the impression that I get is that all these survival games, they're really kind of about the same thing. They don't really differentiate too much.
Yep.
And I think that's why people get that kind of feeling that it's all played out, is because they're just not different enough. And I think that our game, with the base building and with the vehicle customization and with the map, is going to be so different that it's just going to inject some fresh energy into this genre. And I think people are going to like it.
Is the full 625 kilometer map going to be in your game?
No, not in the initial early access release. Only the small island is going to be there. I don't know exactly how many square kilometers it is, but it's pretty big. It's pretty big. It's even bigger than some of the full maps in the competing survival games.
It's going to be very, very interesting to see where you go with it. Just because, like, DayZ has base building, but it's honestly not the greatest. Some of the mods aren't too bad. Scum has a pretty damn good set of base building, from log cabins to the walls and that. So I'm very, very interested to see where you guys go with that, because I know for a lot of people that's not a big part of their DayZ experience. There are some who even say that base building ruins the game. But for a lot of people, it's an essential part of the game. So is that going to be something that people are going to be able to turn on or off on their servers?
They're not able to turn it on and off. Base building is always going to be a part of our game. But base building is one of those things where people are polarized into two camps. Some people love it, some people hate it. But
yes,
our players in Origins mod absolutely loved it. I think we had a great system. I think we had the best system in all the mods. And now in Unreal Engine 4, our hands aren't as tied back as they were in Arma 2. And I think we can build upon that. We can improve it, and it's going to be even better than it was. And I think people are going to love it. I can't really say too much about it because that's one of our main features, and I don't want to give away too much of that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just going to play the trailer in the background while we continue talking, so people can see that.
If you wouldn't mind me going back to the whole DLC thing, I think it's worth mentioning that at the time when we got started with our game, I was quite young myself. And our lead programmer, Alex, he's a little bit older than me, but I can only speak for myself. Even if we did end up working with Bohemia, I think I was too young and immature to lead a team like that, basically, because we'd be working with these old timers that have maybe 10 years, 20 years of experience in games and business. And I just think I wouldn't have been able to handle that the way I'd like that. I probably would have gone the way of Steve Jobs, getting fired from my own company,
Yeah.
So I think being able to take it slower as a startup and being able to go through everything by ourselves and learn how business works, learn how game design works, is a lot more beneficial for us than it would have been to make a DLC with Bohemia. Because when you're in a startup, you're not under such pressure as you would be in a big company like that, because Bohemia is a joint stock company and they have certain obligations to meet deadlines and financial goals for their shareholders.
Yep.
And they just wouldn't put up with, like a 25-year-old that doesn't know what he's doing. So I think that's worth keeping in mind too.
Has much changed with the game from the original trailer that you put out?
A ton has changed. We're actually working on reworking the trailer because pretty much everything has changed. We've been working a lot on improving the graphics. That's another thing that we kind of had to learn as we go along, because we came from modding. None of us was a professional modeler or a professional game designer, so we've had to kind of learn how all that is done in the industry. And to be frank, some of our first models weren't the best. We've improved them, and I think it's worth remaking the trailer so it better represents the game as it is now than
Couldn't
as
agree
it was
more. I think that'd be great to see. Because in preparation for this, I went through and I watched every single video on your YouTube channel, just to get a good feel for it. Yeah, there's no denying I'm a DayZ fanboy. I'm also a Scum fanboy. But one of the things that intrigues me or interests me the most is new models. It's probably one of the weaknesses of DayZ standalone is the same, couple of dozen models get reused over and over and over again. So new buildings to explore. I never got to play Taviana the Origins. I've always said I've only got a handful of hours in the mod. And all of those were on Chernarus. So that's another aspect for me that's a winner, is a new map. It's one of the reasons why I'm enjoying Scum so much. It's a new map that I don't know. Like just the other day I found the new base that I never even knew existed. Because I'm playing it on a server with no in-game map, so I can't just easily see everything around the map and that. So that's a big plus for me with Taviana, is a map the size of Taviana. And
yeah, you're definitely right.
Yeah,
it's the novelty of it all.
Mm-hmm.
To be completely honest, I wasn't too much into the DayZ standalone myself because it's just Chernarus that I've already seen a billion times, just repurposed. I have played on it. They did add some nice new buildings. It looks a lot better, but the novelty is missing. For me, at least. So, and I think it's going to be interesting for people to see how we've reworked Taviana, because they remember it from the old days of Arma 2, and now it's going to be familiar but different at the same time. Yeah, I think that's going to be very interesting.
It is a bit of a weakness, I think, for DayZ standalone, the lack of maps. But yeah, that's possibly going to be something that you'll face with your game as well. That said, a map, 600 kilometers. Is that your goal for the full release of the game, to have the full map done?
Yep, it is.
Yep, that's going to be exciting. A 625 kilometer square map. Like when I was watching the video and you said that figure, I almost choked. I was like, "Are you for real?" I'm going to jump ahead to a question here. We'll come back to the lore one. That excited me, but it also worried me a bit as well. Like like I said, I'm playing Scum, and Scum's on the Unreal Engine as well, I believe, and it works beautifully on Scum, but Scum's a bit smaller than DayZ, from what I understand. I think it's 100 and something square kilometers, but you've got some big city, or you've got a big city on Taviana as well. Now, in Sambora, the city on Scum, the frame rate tanks. How are you guys finding Unreal Engine to work on, particularly thinking of a 600 square kilometer map? Is that engine going to be able to handle that?
Well, making big maps in game engines has always been difficult, and my hats really go off to Bohemia, because they had these massive maps back in like 2000 and 1999 in Operation Flashpoint. And the reason big maps are difficult to work with, because there's a floating point issue in computers. So the further you go away from the center of the map, the coordinates are calculated incorrectly, and things like weapons in your hands start to shake and things like that. But generally, I don't think working with big maps in Unreal Engine is all that difficult. It's a little bit different than Arma, because in Arma, the entire map is loaded at once, whereas in Unreal Engine, you have to do something called world streaming, where you divide the map into smaller segments. But apart from that, I haven't run into any major issues with that. And in regards to the performance you mentioned in large cities, I've never played Scum, so I don't know what their performance is like, but we've had performance issues in big cities in Origins mod, because when we were working on the mod, we didn't really understand video game optimization and things like that. And we got that feedback from our users, so already when we were starting Taviana the Origins, optimization was a key sticking point for us. And we've always kept that in mind. We've always done everything that we can to optimize the game. And we still are. We still have to optimize some shaders and still like some things like that, which we're working on. and which we're going to keep people updated with in later videos. But yeah, our performance is pretty good in big cities.
How interactive is the world going to be? Like, in watching some of the gameplay videos, I can see you can interact with some lockers, and we're watching a video again at the moment with there's barrels and crates, and are they go? Is the plan to have all of those items that can be searched?
Well, we had a question, or we done a poll like that on our Discord, and it turns out what we need is a balance because
Yes, I'm glad.
people
I'm glad you went with that.
Yeah, people like searching openable
Yes.
things like drawers and stuff, but if you have to do it too much, it gets a bit repetitive. So some things are already going to be open, some things just going to be lying around in the open, and some things will be hidden in cupboards and drawers.
Yep. No, I did like that. I remember seeing that there, and I saw that most of the comments were people saying, no, we'd like a mix, to be able to search some items, and I like that there's animations, the drawers slide open and things like that. Just adds a little bit to immersion factor when you're in the game.
Yeah.
Definitely a win for me. When it comes to the lore of the game, now it's a weakness in my opinion of DayZ Standalone, that there is lore for DayZ Standalone, but most people don't know it. Most people don't know that the zombies aren't actually zombies; they're infected with a rage virus, and it seems like you're going to be going a different path with that, with a lot more lore surrounding it, because that's how the original game was made as well, with a bit of lore. So, what's your plans around introducing people to the lore of the game?
Well, I'm quite surprised that you said there's a lore in DayZ because I was unaware of any lore until pretty much now when you said I had no idea zombies were infected with rage virus.
That's the problem. Yeah.
I'm not sure what to say. But yeah, our lore is the lore is, or what we found is that the lore is very important to players. Even since the beginnings of Origins mod, people would say to us, we love the lore, we love that you have a lore. So that's also something we kept in mind. And our lore is basically this. The Soviet Union was trying to create a vaccine that would alter people's DNA in such a way that they wouldn't be affected by viruses, and it would just make them healthier, more stronger human beings that could work longer, they could fight better, and they could just be superior to all the other nations in the world. And the way they wanted to achieve that was with a retrovirus. I'm not sure if you know what those are, but those are kind of like HIV, meaning the virus has to infect, the virus doesn't multiply on itself, it has to infect a cell, it kind of changes that cell's DNA and uses it to reproduce. So their thought was, if we create a virus that could be essentially beneficial, it could invade the cells and change the DNA, remove some bad bits of the DNA, and essentially leave the cell improved, or in a more improved state than it was when it first got infected. And they did that on Taviana because it's a remote republic of the Soviet Union, and it's an island, so if something went wrong, then, well, it wouldn't quickly spread it to the other neighboring regions. And the man assigned to this project was Dr. Ivan. Not much is known about him, just that he was Dr. Ivan. And he worked on this in a lab under the capital city called Sabina. And eventually something went wrong with the virus. It didn't quite work out the way they wanted to, and he got infected with it. And what ended up happening is the cells didn't get improved. They stopped multiplying. And so eventually people essentially die and they become living zombies. So the cells will start multiplying and just start dying off, and they start rotting and turning into zombies. And so the rich people, or the ruling class of that republic of Taviana, saw what's happening. They escaped to a Air Force base called Sector B, which is a man-made Air Force base about 2 kilometers off the coast of Taviana. They built a big wall. They're guarded by the world's finest mercenaries. The highest ranking person on the island is Mayor George. He was like the leader of that island.
Yep.
And your goal is to survive and hopefully get to the island where you can find all kinds of special loot that you wouldn't be able to find on the main island. Try to build a house. and just
I
try and
like that.
survive as long as possible.
I like that. That's interesting to me. And is there going to be bits of information you can find throughout the world? Like I've seen Sumrak with his Namolsk mod that he just released for DayZ. There's little packets of information you can find, little folders that tell you the story. Is there going to be things like that throughout the world in Taviana?
Yep, we'll definitely scatter some clues and some photos, as you mentioned, some documents to kind of allude to what was going on.
Yep.
I think that'll be interesting. I think that's a good idea.
So what about with the AI of the game? You mentioned, Dr. Ivan and Mayor George, and how are they going to be implemented?
What do you mean, how are they going to be implemented?
Like, is that going to be someone that you can kill in the game, say Mayor George, and try to take his position? Or is it not going to be that in-depth in that aspect?
The AI is going to be like proper AI. You can kill them. The mercenaries are going to have weapons. They're going to shoot at you when you land on Sector B and try to storm it. Their mission is to prevent anybody from the rest of the islands from getting them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you kill them all and you get to Mayor George, who's hiding at some location, at a random location on the island, you can also kill him and get like a golden revolver, golden Kalichnikov weapon from him.
And his watch?
Blueprints for special houses. Yep, his watch too.
I did see that comment on the video. That should be endgame loot. Get the watch. His lovely Rolex. I did like that video and the background music you had for. I'll see if I can bring up that video where you introduced Mayor George. Oh.
Although we haven't implemented a watch yet, hopefully we'll do that at some point in the future. It would be nice to have the watch appear on the player. What we initially wanted was the watch to just appear when you press T to see the time, but nobody else can see it. But if it actually appeared on your hand in game, that would be super cool.
Just letting the video roll in the background there. Good old classic T pose.
I should have probably played an animation there.
So how many players per server are you looking at being able to manage?
Hopefully the same as we had in Arma or exceed that, but I can't really elaborate on that because we haven't begun testing with the patrons yet.
Yep.
Or the beta testers, so I don't want to say some kind of number that we can achieve later on.
Smart man.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Smart man. Give them as little as possible to come back at you and say, you said this and you didn't achieve it, you suck.
Well, I don't want to get people's hopes up and then it ends up being half of what we promised.
Yep. Oh. Wrong document. There we go. So how many people have you got working on the game right now?
6 people working on it, including me.
Yep. Imagine you'd like to have 10 times that amount. But
we've got 5 people and a panda.
5 people and a panda.
Well, finding people is the hardest part, and having a lot of people isn't always the best. I mean, it's better to have one high-quality person than 3 people that aren't really interested, and you have to manage them all the time. What you want is high-quality people that kind of see the vision and they become self-managing. You don't really have to, they know what to do and they'll go do it themselves. You don't have to manage them. One person like that can be better than 3 or 4 people that aren't like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, we did have a few viewer questions, or when I say a few, we had a lot of viewer questions. One person in particular gave us a massive list of questions. Give me one sec, just let me bring them up. So are there any plans for farming, like building or a garden or breeding rabbits and chicken?
At the moment, we don't have anything like that implemented, and maybe we will in the future. We've kind of toyed with that idea in Origins mod, but we'll have to see how people play the game, essentially, if there's a need for that or if there is no need for that. So I think we'll decide as we go along, as we release the early access and see how people play the game. Then
I would say I would love it.
if there's interest, but you have to keep in mind that if you have farming, then that's going to be a big disbalance towards the looting system, because essentially you don't have to loot for food anymore. You could just exist indefinitely in your house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that has to be kept in mind, and that's something that we have to decide on. That could be a game maker or a deal breaker.
Washbar also asks, can I change the colour of my weapon and can I put ghillie gun wraps on it?
Yep, we'll have player customization.
Nice.
We have player customization too, but weapon, excuse me. You asked about weapons.
Yep. Any plans for fishing?
That's another thing, like farming.
Yep.
We've toyed with that again, but we'll have to see if there's a need for it. And we'd have to build a prototype and see how that even works.
I can guarantee you there'll be a lot of people who'll be wanting it. Yeah, it's a big thing for... Well, it's a question that I forgot to write down, actually. What's the focus of the game going to be at its core? More PvE or more PvP?
I think we need to strike a balance. A very good balance.
Yep.
You want people to loot and to build houses and do all the customization, but at the same time, you want people to have some kind of confrontations with other players and, have some fun while playing. It shouldn't all be about building. We're not doing The Sims.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be a really good balance, and I think we'll strike that balance as we go along and see how people play. If there's a disbalance in one place, then we'll kind of tweak it, and eventually we'll reach some kind of middle ground where pretty much everybody's satisfied.
Are the sewers going to be connected between cities? Maybe a large sewer system across the map?
Some of them are, some of them are not. Some of them will lead out of cities into maybe a port or into the ocean.
Okay. Will people be able to host it on their local servers?
I don't know the answer to that question. We haven't gotten that far.
Yep.
That's something that we'll let people know when the game is released.
Are we going to be getting more information about the lore of the outbreak and Dr. Evan? Some official videos done to explain to people who aren't aware of the lore behind Taviana?
Absolutely. We need to do a wiki. What do you call it? A wiki website?
Yep.
Jeez, I haven't used wikis in so long. I forget what they're called. But yeah, we're gonna have a wiki, and the lore's gonna be there. There's gonna be a description of all the characters, all the weapons, all the vehicles, some history of the map. People really like that in Origins mod. We had a wiki, and people spent quite a lot of time reading it. And
yep. Will there be
they found it quite interesting.
Will there be a faction system within the core of the game?
There will, but I'm not sure exactly how that will turn out. Again, that's something that we have to look into.
Yep.
At the moment, we're just focusing on the basics of the game. We're not really looking that far into it.
I'll expand on the next question they've got. Is the crossbow and bows planned on being in the game?
Maybe not in the early access, but as we go forward, maybe.
Yep.
Again, we have to do a prototype and see how that works, because in Arma, the crossbow was basically, it was like a pistol. There was no crossbow. It just looked like a crossbow, but you shot a bullet at somebody.
Yeah.
So we'd like to have an actual arrow that flies through the air and hits people. Or animals.
Now, Johnny has a list of questions as well. Is Taviana the Origins multiplayer only, or will it have a single player mode too?
It's going to be multiplayer only, probably. We've never thought of making it single player. I just don't see the need in it. Neither does the team. But if a lot of people want it to be single player, I guess we could do like a single player mod.
I would highly recommend that, because there are some people who just it's probably one you can play DayZ standalone single player, but you've got to watch videos on how to create a server on your own PC and all the rest of it. one big plus that I give to Scum is that from the launch of the game, the launch menu, right there is play single player, where you can just open up the world. Because myself, I'm the sort of person who sometimes I feel like interacting with others, and other times I'm a loot whore at heart. I just love running around and finding stuff and surviving against the game itself. And to be able to do that would be an amazing option. I think you'd find a lot of people would enjoy that if there was just at the launch menu, play multiplayer or play single player on your own computer, where your computer hosts the map and all the rest of it, just easily done from the menu. I think that would be a big win for your game, as opposed to like DayZ Standalone, where it's a lot more difficult to play single player.
Definitely right in that regard, and I'll bring that up to the team and see what they think of it. But we have to keep in mind that if you introduce a single player mode in the game, you basically take away the entire interacting with other people aspect.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It would possibly be nice to have bots as other survivors or something like that. But then if you do that, well, you might as well have a multiplayer game.
I don't know. I saw that bear in one of the videos, and there's definitely going to be some PvE elements that you need to be scared of.
Definitely. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see on that one.
Yep.
And then we have to see if it's actually worth the effort, because a single player game is very different to a multiplayer game. And with our limited team, we only have 6 people or 5 people in a panda.
Yeah.
We have to focus our resources really carefully on, or the better way to say that is we should be very careful about the horses that we pick to ride into the future. Because if we focus on too many things, then neither of them will be very good, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It completely does.
We'd rather pick multiplayer, which is going to be the bulk of our players, and make that really good, as opposed to working on single player too.
Yep. He also asked, is it basically going to be a fully realised version of Origins mod? Well, you pretty much answered that, yes. Not initially at early access, but you will be heading there.
Mm-hmm.
Will the world lore still be similar? The mysterious skeletons, King Solobor's grave, the aliens in the forest, etc.?
Absolutely.
That'll make a lot of people happy, I think. Will the rusty old Origins Trader Island still be a thing? The oil rigs as well?
Yep, they will. They will. I think we'll improve the Trader Island and trading system a little bit, but it'll still be a thing.
How much bigger will the map be than the final Arma 2 version of the map?
Not much. We've expanded the little island that's going to be present in the early access version, and the main reason we've done that is because on its own, or in the original form, it was kind of small. There was a lot of mountains, and there wasn't much space for base building. So we expanded it with some villages that add a lot of fields for base building.
Yeah.
But as for the whole island, it's not going to be much bigger. I think it's big enough as it is, and if it gets any bigger, then you'll have a hard time bumping into anyone.
With the base building, is it going to be a bit of a mix where you can lock down existing structures or build a standalone base?
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, mysterious.
I told you they'll send me to the gulag.
He wants to know, why was Taviana zoo like it was in the mod? Did you run out of time to finish it? Will it be as you intended, an actual zoo in Taviana the Origins?
I wouldn't say we ran out of time to finish it. We just the technology to implement what we wanted just wasn't available in Arma 2.
Yep.
So with Unreal Engine, I think we'll definitely finish it the way we wanted it to.
Because I did see your April Fool's video where you had lions and alligators and elephants and zebra and stuff like that, and they've just released the Jessica map on DayZ Standalone, and there's a zoo in that. And one of the things I wish is that there was some wild animals roaming around the zoo and in the city around it and that. So, you know, I know it was an April Fool's thing, but don't be afraid to put a few of those in there. I think it'll be, you know, just add an extra level of threat, something worthwhile going in there, some sort of unique loot to the zoo area, but a hell of a lot more risk with some wild animals in there that can seriously mess you up.
Well, there's a little bit of truth to every joke, I think.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Will the infected be runners or shamblers or a mixture of the two?
It's going to be a mixture of the two.
Good. Seeing as this is Unreal 4 and not the RV engine, will Taviana the Origins have genuine underground areas?
It won't, because it already has.
How many total hours have you spent recreating the new map so far, do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know. We haven't kept track, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And some things we created, then we recreated them, then we found a better way of doing it, then we recreated it again. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Is there anything super cool you can tell us about the game that you haven't mentioned in the YouTube videos yet?
If I did, there would be nothing to make YouTube videos about.
So what were you doing before you are you doing this full time now? This is your actual job?
Yep.
What were you doing before this?
Before this, I lived in England, and I was attending university where I didn't drop out, but I didn't completely finish all the courses. It was divided into foundation degree, bachelor's, and then master's. I kind of done the foundation degree, and then I decided that wasn't for me. And I decided to pursue game development. And at the same time, I was working in a supermarket called Asda.
Yes.
Which is like the British version of Walmart. I'm not sure if you have that in Australia.
No, we don't. No.
But yeah, that's where I worked at, and
this is a question we've had in chat as well. But will you support modding?
We don't have any plans to support modding right now. That's something that, again, it's one of the. It's like I said with the horses. Modding, it's cool to have, but it requires a lot of resources to implement. And I'm not sure if there's going to be enough interest to warrant doing that. If there is, and if we have enough resources, I don't see why not. So
it's a bit of a if there's enough interest and support in the game when it's released, then it's definitely something, with increased members of the team you'll be able to look at. But that's going to be incumbent on that.
It's not only a technological aspect; there's a legal aspect to it too. Because when people release mods for your game, they're probably going to do that through a Steam workshop. I have no idea how that works legally. They're probably going to have to sub-license they're going to have to license the mods to us, and then we'll have to sub-license them to Steam. Something I haven't looked into it. I'm not sure how that would work.
Okay.
So there's that burden to it too.
Will players be able to create their own servers, or will it be like Origins was for the first couple of years, official servers only?
In the beginning, we'll have official servers, but they'll definitely be able to create their own servers.
Mm-hmm.
As far as if they're going to be able to host them themselves on their own computers, I don't know at the moment.
Now, he asks here, will there be lots of Easter eggs to find? I think I can answer that for you, because you've already been planting Easter eggs in. The first one no one picked up on, but I've seen some of the artwork where you've got the faces of the team on the posters. And
Yeah, we had Alex on the poster. Very handsome man.
Do you have any other plans for other games with MyAct Studios in the future?
Absolutely.
Now, with MyAct Studios, is that someone who signed you up to make the game under them?
No, we just created the studio ourselves.
Yep.
It took us quite a considerable amount of time to find a name for the studio, because finding something like a name seems easy, but when you answer it, you're like, that name's taken, all the names are taken.
Yep. Totally understand that. I was trying to name a defense gaming group, and I spent nearly a week on it, just trying to think of a name to capture it, and it's just an absolute nightmare.
You want a nice catchy name that rolls off the tongue. You don't want a name like all these car manufacturers I've been doing recently, like just all kinds of random letters from the alphabet.
So is there any significance to the name MyAct Studios?
MyAct is a atomic research complex in Russia, in the city of Chelyabinsk, and we thought that would be quite fitting since we are in the horror genre. And we're also massive fans of the Stalker series of games. One of our team members actually worked on the game. on the original Stalker game, so we thought that'd be quite fitting. We loved it, and that's what we decided to go with.
Gunplay is a big thing for a lot of people. What are your plans with that?
What do you mean specifically? What are our plans with that?
Is there going to be a lot of time and effort put into the gunplay? Because it could be something that really makes or breaks a game. You know, Hack Fishing says here, desync as well as horrible gun mechanics make or break a game. Are you going to be going all in like an Escape from Tarkov, or keeping it as simple as possible?
Desync and gunplay are two different things. Gunplay is really about having good animations. You don't want clunky animations.
Yes.
And then the rest is just pressing the trigger and having good sounds and maybe some good muzzle effects. And I think if we nail that, then we'll have good gunplay.
Bullet drop off and things like that.
Yeah, we have bullet drop off already. But we don't want to go too hardcore with it because we tried certain things in Origins mod which went a little bit too hardcore. People didn't really like that, so we're gonna try and keep it a bit more arcade-like. Just nice and simple. You know, people want to come home from work, sit down, and just have a good time playing. They don't want to load like one bullet into their magazine and clean the muzzle and things like that.
Yep. What's the plan for the loot economy? Is it going to be more like DayZ mod, where loot was plentiful and guns were very easy to come by because of the server constantly recycling loot? Or is it going to be more like DayZ standalone, where loot is pretty scarce and mid-tier or mid and high-tier guns extremely hard to come by?
I'm going to say that loot's going to be scarce. Good loot is going to be quite scarce because the main problem we had in Origins mod is you just went into any town and you just found anything you needed. You found really, really high value loot. You found all the food, all the bandages, everything you needed in one town. So we want to kind of spread that out so people have to make their way to bigger cities and other towns to gather the loot.
Is there going to be one of the things I liked about some of the older patches of DayZ Standalone was, you know, there was loot that was more easily be able to be found in certain locations. You know, it's a criticism I've had of the game where they need to give you a reason to keep moving around the map. That if you want to find X type of rifle, there's a higher chance of finding it up in this section of the map. If you need to find medical supplies, then the best place is this city, which has got the biggest hospital and.
Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about. Since you have this big map, it'd be a pity to just find everything you need in a village and never explore the rest of the map.
Yep. It also makes it great for for those servers that do pop up with certain types of factions and so on. More reason for interaction, be it raiding each other or trading with each other, as they're going to have more of a certain type of loot, and you might have more of a different type of loot.
Yeah.
With base building, how in depth is that going to be? Is there going to be different tiers of bases, or keeping it as simple as possible?
It's going to be largely based on the base building we had in Origins mod with some improvements. Don't really want to go into that because that is a core game feature, and I don't want to give too much away. But it's not going to be difficult. We're trying to make everything as simple as possible, so people could come home, enjoy the game, and not have to mess around with too many things.
Is it going to be a permadeath system like DayZ?
What do you mean by permadeath?
When you die, that's it. You lose everything. You spawn randomly somewhere, and if you're lucky, you can try to run back to your body and. Yep.
Your body's going to turn into a grave where all your loot is, and if you make it back in time, you'll get it back. If not, well, then somebody else will.
Base building, we kind of touched on. Is there going to be a lot in the way of making furniture and being able to customize your base, make it feel more like a home, as opposed to just some walls and maybe a tent?
Give that away for now. But it's going to be great, trust me on that.
I'm excited because, I've kind of given up on the base building aspect of DayZ. It's just boring. Whereas, maybe look at Scum for some inspiration. They've got some fantastic ideas. I've been really enjoying base building on that. So another game with that sort of aspect to it, I like that idea. I really, really do.
The last time I played DayZ was in a really, really raw state. It was like pretty much after it was released.
Yep.
I haven't played the later versions of it. I've never played Scum. I'm not a big fan of playing other people's games and seeing their ideas because we want to have our own ideas. I think that's what made us so unique, the fact that we never really try to be like anyone else.
So
I think when you go down that path of seeing other people's ideas, then it becomes that all the survival games are the same, and then people think, oh, the market's just oversaturated.
is there anything else that you want to let us know about?
Well, I'd like to let you know about my Patreon.
Yes.
How
can we support the project?
Patreon.com/TavianaOrigins. There's all kinds of goodies. You can get an beta key, beta testing key. You can get access to screenshots and videos and behind-the-scenes footage. You can even get a t-shirt and a postcard, so definitely check it out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us on social media.
And there's your website, TavianaTheOrigins.com.
We're going to have to update that too with the latest graphics, because some of these models on the website are kind of old.
There we go. There's the Patreon page. Lots of information on there. Are you updating regularly for your patrons?
Yep, every 2 weeks.
Every 2
We've
weeks?
started a new video segment called Dev Shorts, where we're going to try to make videos every week, or maybe multiple times a week. Just really short, couple of minute videos that don't require much effort to keep people updated even more frequently.
I'll share these
I think
links.
that's going to work out better because most people don't have the time to watch 10-minute videos, but if you do like 2-minute videos, then I think people will find that much better than the long videos. We'll do long videos too, but there needs to be a balance, I think. It's all about balance.
A nice mix. You know, even some of the content creators I follow who are more well known for long form videos, they're all experimenting with short stuff, less than a minute even. Because it's, the attention spans these days are probably the shortest they've ever been, and people just enjoy being able to snap on and see something. And it's a great way to pique someone's interest. And this looks pretty cool. Oh, they've got a longer video. Yeah, I'll watch that. Nice little way to dip your toes in the water before you jump in. Anything else? Anything else you would like to let us know about?
I don't want to talk about things too prematurely because it might not end up materializing in the game, and I don't want to let people down. So what we prefer to do is when we're finished with one feature, we'll do a video about it, and don't want to overpromise too much.
I'm excited for it. It's got a completely different look and feel. From all the videos I watched, I do encourage you folks, if you have some time and you want to know more about it, go to the YouTube page. I'll bring that up. Martin's put quite a few videos up with some tours of what was the name of the village again? Vildich. And you'll get quite a good history lesson on some of the Eastern Bloc cars as well from the period.
Yeah, petrol head, at least to say in the UK.
I actually found that very, very interesting. The history of the vehicles and what happened after World War II with some of the factories that were making BMWs and how they were converted and so on.
Yeah.
Martin, I wish you and the team the best of luck with this, mate. Don't let the haters get to you, mate. I know, it is. I'm not going to say it's not disappointing that we won't see Taviana on DayZ Standalone, but Like I said in a discussion with someone on that Reddit post, it's your game. You guys made this, and it's a risk. It's a big risk. When I interviewed Tomislav, he talked about how financially risky it was with him with Scum. A lot of money goes into making a game, and that's a risk that you and the team have chosen to take. And we mentioned the Patreon, but if you are interested in this and you've got a few dollars here or there spare, consider supporting the project, whether it be just a one-off donation or whether it be signing up to become a full Patreon. I don't agree that this genre is played out. I think there's plenty of room, and to see another spin on this exciting genre that we all love, I think is a win for everyone, Martin.
So, you're right when you talk about risk. A lot of people don't see that way, but what you have to keep in mind is when you're working on a project, you're not only pouring your own money into it, but you're pouring your own time into it. And if you think about it, you spend like 3-4 years developing this game, whereas if you didn't in that time, you could have probably been having a career somewhere else, making a lot of money, and you didn't because you were focusing on this, which is all right. I mean, if you're afraid of failure, then you're not going to get very far.
Yep.
But I think that's a perspective that people should know about too.
One last thing. Anyone in chat got any final questions? If not, we will look at wrapping up. But I wish you all the best, mate. I'm very excited. Just like I mentioned at the beginning, a new map, new assets. I love DayZ, and I'll always continue playing DayZ. But I do get bored with seeing the same old assets used again. And just a whole new world to explore, and such a large world as well. On full release, that's a massive map. That's almost three times the size of Chernarus.
I think that will convert you to Taviana the Origins from DayZ.
Sorry, what was that?
I think will convert you to become a fan of our game.
I'm a fan of the whole genre. I've been for almost 7-8 years now, just pretty much a DayZ fanboy. But I'm starting to expand my wings and realizing that there's so many other great and exciting survival games out there. And I thought I better check in on Taviana the Origins again and see how it's going. And I'm glad I did, because what I'm seeing excites me. A different take, a different spin, a different world, a different lore, all of that I'm very, very interested in, mate. And as soon as payday comes around, I'll be signing up as a patron to the project as well.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
No, I definitely will. And I encourage anyone else to do that as well out there, either those watching now or those watching the video or listening to it on Spotify as well. Panda asks in chat, is it the same building system with plans on Sector B as it used to be?
Yes, it is. As I mentioned, it's going to be based on what we had in Origins mod. Just going to be better. I can't tell you how, but trust me. See, maybe we'll do a video about it just before we release the game.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. And if you've got any major updates coming, please feel free to reach out. Would love to talk about them with you again. When you're getting close to early access and things like that, just so we can help shine the spotlight on this amazing project as well. Guys, sorry?
When we're ready to do the early access, I'll definitely hit you up again and
definitely.
talk about it.
And I understand some people are upset, but try to move past it. This is an exciting project, and I wish you the best of luck, you and the rest of the team, mate.
The haters don't really get to me personally. They did to a couple of people in our team, but I think they've learned to live with it.
Yeah.
When we moved to Canada, we landed at Pearson Airport. We had like $200 in our pocket, and we basically took a taxi to the cheapest motel, which was in a city called St. Catharines, right beside Niagara Falls. They didn't have a free room, and they kind of felt sorry for us. So for the first night, for the first night we were homeless, and they felt sorry for us because we were sitting out in the parking lot, just eating like what they call muffins and things like that from a shop called Coffee Time. And they felt sorry for us, so they gave us like a 5-star suite in that hotel for the first night.
That's nice.
And yeah, the Canadians are really nice people, but what I'm trying to say is that my entire life, people have always kind of disbelieved in me. They said, well, where are you going to be? Look at you, you're an immigrant, you're this, you're that. So I'm kind of used to that. I mean, the haters don't really affect me at all. I don't think they affect the team. And it's a market economy, you know. If we do a good job, people are going to buy it. If we do a bad job, they're not, and it'll just work itself out.
Best of luck, mate. Best of luck. I can't wish you the best for this more than I am. Yeah, it's. I don't understand the hate. I prefer to concentrate on things that bring me joy in my life.
It's the internet. There's people from all types of walks of life. Some people might not be happy in their personal life. Something might be going on.
Yeah.
In other areas of their life, and that kind of just manifests itself into the comments.
Yep.
They'll grow out of it, I think, and just try not to worry about that.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yep. Nothing wrong with a bit of constructive criticism.
Even the big boys get hate, so that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mentioned it a bit, but the likes of Brian Hicks and Eugen from the DayZ dev teams, and I swear to God, they must have PTSD from some of the stuff that happened to them in the making of their game, and I don't understand how people can get quite so upset. But
I mentioned that I watched his interviews. I mean, your interviews with him before we went on air, and it was kind of upsetting to hear that he had all these health problems because of all the haters and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that. I
didn't realize that they went through that when they were developing the standalone, and that was kind of upsetting to hear.
Very.
But what can you do? You know, can't let that affect you.
Yep.
And the bigger your company gets, the worse it's going to get. So,
any plans to show at any expos coming up?
No, not really. I think expos are pretty much dead. It's all online now.
Yep.
I think expos are a good way to look for venture capital. So you could have like your prototype and have various people in the gaming industry come test it out and perhaps invest into your company. But as far as marketing your product goes, I think that's pretty much dead. I think a better way to do it is Twitch and YouTube and all these internet platforms.
I'll just share your Twitter as well, because you are very active there as well. So if you do have Twitter, folks, all the links for their social media, their Patreon, all that sort of stuff is going to be in the description of the video and the podcast on Spotify. So please hit them up, give them a follow, stay up to date with what's happening with the project. It's still very, very early days. It's not even early access yet. Any idea of how long before you'll get to early access, or not really prepared to commit to that?
I don't know, we've got animations left to do, a bit of programming, but we live in kind of unprecedented times with the pandemic, so I don't know how this is going to play out. We might have like a fourth wave, or anything can happen. There's no telling. So I don't want to overpromise.
But I kind of imagine that you want to do it as soon as possible, because revenue, a bit of money coming in would be fantastic.
Absolutely. We'd like to get it done as soon as possible, but at the same time, we don't want to rush it too much, because first impressions last forever, as they say.
Yep.
And if we do a bad job with the early access, then that's kind of the ghost of that is kind of gonna follow us forever. So I'm not saying it has to be perfect, but we definitely want to smooth out any hard edges before we do the early access. But hopefully we get it done as soon as possible.
Yep.
It's not like we're trying to slow things down on purpose. We also want to get it done as soon as possible, but some things just require time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't realize how much work goes into making products.
Yeah, they don't. Even myself, and I'm starting to learn more. But there's a lot, especially with such a small team, mate. 6 people. That's a lot of work for.
When we got started, we thought progress will go much quicker than it has. And life happens in between. People get sick.
Yep. Are you recruiting? If anyone out there has any skills they feel might be useful, how would they look about getting in contact with you?
PM me in Discord, PM me, PM Alex, or any of the other devs.
Yep. and I'll have a link to the Discord in the description of the video and the podcast as well, folks. Martin, all the best, mate. Keep it up. Don't let the haters get you down, the spoon blocking the haters and all the rest of it. And very, very excited to see where this goes, mate.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Pleasure speaking to you too, sir. All the best, and keep us updated.
Sure will.
Okay, mate. All the best.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.